Alrighty, and welcome to the show for a two-part discussion all in one giant hour on the one, the only horror and crime filmmaker that is David Cronenberg. And welcoming from Genre Exposure back on the show is none other than Jason. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. I was just like, hey, we gotta get into just some other cult filmmaker. We've done so many of the Sam Raimis, Peter Jacksons, even the James Cameron, as you were on there before, and it was just cool just having just a breakdown of, it's like, here are people who can start out small and then get big. I always love having an indie filmmaker on, because I even asked them personally, it's like, so how are you able to avoid being the Sam Raimi or Christopher Nolan of indie cinema? And it's just like, so many of them often are even just inspired by plenty of other just of these other filmmakers. And it's even more interesting just seeing how just common that they are brought up in just random discussion for, is like, hey, yeah, I'm a big fan of this guy, or I knew about this guy. He was right in the video store shelf next to this other bigger attraction.
Right. Yeah.
I remember him more. Oh man. So we are talking about Mr. David Cronenberg. He has also done experimental mystery, science fiction. All movie lists his various subgenres as sci-fi horror, sex horror, psychological drama, psychological thriller, and psychological sci-fi.
He really transcends all of those, though, in my opinion.
1,000%. And he is kind of just all about, based off seeing his episode of the Directors, show from back in the late 90s, it just seemed like any limitation like that just appealed to him all the more. He was just like, yeah, I want that challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seriously think he is one of the greatest living filmmakers, full stop.
Oh, totally. And that's a good segue here. I would, whenever I'm even if I'm like disappointed by one of his movies, I would never in any existence say, what a terrible filmmaker.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not everything always works, but at the same time, it's so well made. You can at least appreciate it on that level.
He's kind of the godfather of even just psychological horror. Because for a while, even when people were trying to emulate a shocker that, John Schlesinger or Alfred Hitchcock, to name a few, might have done, he kind of was just always like, he was kind of part of the underground, but, and I know,
definitely pioneered the whole psychological, the body horror. That's definitely
body horror. Yeah.
When you think of Cronenberg, you think of body horror,
and
which is very psychological, of course.
When you even think of exploding heads, come on.
Right.
And his movies have always kind of been complimentary. Like whenever any of his movies come out, people remember it as kind of being almost complimentary with some of the other cult movies from that same year. You could dare, I keep mentioning Sam Raimi, but you could even put him in with some of the Stuart Gordons and Brian Usna's, just the guys who let it rip. It's like they had nothing to lose. Their movies were gonna make money.
And a Cronenberg film when you see a Cronenberg film.
Oh yeah, and
because he uses the same people, the same crew as much as possible. Right. And if ever the word auteur had to be ascribed to someone, it's David Cronenberg.
Yeah, totally. And with an exploding head, people will reference Scanners, but there's even other people who have casually. I mean, he just about every movie he's done, you've heard about it in some capacity. Like I remember hearing an interview back in the day when I listened to NPR quite a bunch. Howard Shore was being interviewed on how he got the right rhythm for scoring A History of Violence for Cronenberg, and it was interesting just seeing how. Before I started, it's like there's so many other movies he's in where it's like he makes an appearance and you can totally understand why he's in here. I understand why he's in Clive Barker's Nightbreed.
Oh, I love him in Nightbreed.
Right?
He's such a good Dr. Decker in that one.
He is a good amazing. Doctor. Yeah,
so cold and calculating, and
he's a main
kind of
guest
playing
spot.
himself, I think.
I think he kind of is. He's like, I got nothing to lose. This is for fun. He's in a very little underseen movie, Resurrection by Russell Mulcahy. You might have seen that back in the day. It's like,
I don't think I think I missed that one.
it's gotten the Blu-ray treatment. So there's another 7
Okay.
thriller to check out.
Check that one out.
We mentioned Jason X, but I mean, we also mentioned he's in a few other ones. If you've ever seen the miniseries The Judge with Edward James Olmos, he's one of the once again playing a doctor. So there's a trend there, and he recently starred with his recurring actor Viggo Mortensen's directorial film Falling, which talks about a dysfunctional, closeted man dealing with his overbearing, bigoted dad.
Oh yeah, wasn't that played by Lance Henriksen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't seen that yet. I need to check that out.
They had been in some movies together. I think it was Appaloosa, with which Ed Harris was in, and there's the connection. It's Viggo works with all the cool cats, and Cronenberg's much of the same one. He just wants to collaborate with all these guys who are, and he
even showed up on the Star Trek Discovery series.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And
I had no idea who was going to be on there, and he pops up. I'm like, holy crap, it's David Cronenberg.
Totally. I mean, and I think, with seeing all these culture wars and people react to Star Trek and realizing they had their head up their ass, they always thought it was just a Star Wars show when it was really always just kind of like Outer Limits and, Twilight Zone, but with outer space, cowboys. And it's just interesting how he would be on there because there was a lot of nightmarish imagery in that season he was in. So it's like, yeah, it totally makes sense why they brought him on there because
that's a good point.
And what else are you going to do? I mean, it was a Toronto production, and he's going to be on a lot of those. He is all for it. And every other actor who's kind of gotten into directing, I noticed Leslie Hope was one of them. You might know her from 24 and Henry and June, but I noticed she kind of noted that, when she was first getting into directing around the 2000s, she just remembered in the 90s how it was uncool to be a Canuck. Even Canadians would mock each other, and it seems like Cronenberg kind of got through a lot of that bullshit.
He was always the cool one,
Yeah, he had all the giant, ones that make people walk out of Sundance or get a best movie of the year, nom from Ebert and company. And so, yeah, just...
What was your introduction to David Cronenberg?
That is a wonderful question. I'm going to probably say the first one I saw all the way through was probably The Dead Zone.
Nice. That's a good one. That's underrated. A lot of people don't talk about The Dead Zone, but I think it's really strong.
Oh, hell, we even covered the TV show the same name. It was like, same deal. I know there's fans of it out there, but it was always kind of a sleeper hit. And it's on streaming now, and I got into it, and it's like, wow, I was missing out on so much. But at the same time, it's just so tricky. When people have a formula, it's tough to place down. But I do kind of applaud Cronenberg, even though he adapted, something from Stephen King. It's hardly what you could say, even a typical Stephen King adaptation. And he ended up not really being that guy. I'm going to only adapt Stephen King. He was just like, I want to just go through something that I can create a very grim atmosphere, and I can just...
Yeah, I mean, for being a hired gun, because he doesn't usually adapt other people's stuff like that. At least not so popular like Stephen King. He did a great job. He really elevated the material, I think, because it's a fine book. It's a passable book, but I think the movie improves upon the book 100-fold.
Oh, totally. And you're kind of set up for that, a sad, tragic ending, because the whole movie is just very relentlessly grim.
There was a run there where like all of Cronenberg's protagonists committed suicide.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Like with the Dead Zone, The Fly, M Butterfly.
Doesn't someone die in Videodrome?
Yeah, Videodrome. Yeah, Max Friend kills himself in Videodrome. Someone
definitely dies at the end of Crimes of the Future. I just saw that one. That's but yeah, no, that's a good point. It's because not everyone can approach, because you'll see other filmmakers. Who can I throw out there? Fuck it. Rennie Harlan. You'll see other people who kind of vary in tone, and you're kind of wondering, he's like, whoa, do you think this is okay? Or are you just not looking at the script all that? Or are you just not taking it all that seriously?
Right.
It's a blockbuster movie.
No, Cronenberg's an artist with a capital A. He really is. I mean, nothing's accidental in his films. I think everything is calculated.
Oh, totally. And I really do not feel like he gets all that. I don't feel like he gets as spoiled like some other filmmakers do. Like,
yeah.
I think it was like Robert Eager's been using a lot of the same names. Scorsese kind of used DiCaprio and De Niro to death. David Russell must have Christian Bale in every single movie he does, and
he did a few things with this. Like Viggo Mortensen shows up in a few movies.
Viggo Mortensen, but I will applaud Jeremy Irons because my dad and uncle growing up, they would always reference Dead Ringers. Like,
Jeremy Irons was robbed of the Oscar that year. I think the only reason he won it for Reversal of Fortune the year after is because he didn't get it for Dead Ringers. Yeah.
Yeah,
he is so good in that. He's amazing.
And it got a proper Blu-ray.
And for those listening, if you don't know about it, he plays twin gynecologist. So he's playing two roles.
And that was when Cronenberg was still writing a lot of his movies.
Right. And the twins, they will impersonate each other. So he has to play his own twin pretending to be the same character. But it doesn't get messy. You know who's who. And it's a brilliant performance. It's crazy.
Right? Oh my God. Yeah. And all this imagery. I think Irons is also in Butterfly. I'm not sure if I saw that movie.
It's good. I mean, it's an adaptation of the play, but
it's a period drama, I think. Yeah.
Right. It's still very well worth watching.
Yeah, great.
My first Cronenberg film was The Fly.
Oh, even better. Yeah. My dad references that at least once.
I was probably too young to see it. I was probably, I don't even think I was 12 yet. I was probably 11 or something.
It's surprisingly pretty engaging despite...
It had a profound effect on me. It truly did.
Oh, yeah. Because if you ever see any of his other movies, you're going to get nightmares or,
Yeah. And it's so just the disease themes and everything. It's like Peter Jackson put it best in an interview I saw. He said that when he saw The Fly, he didn't want the videotape in his house because it felt like it was diseased and that he would get something from it.
That's ironic coming from
him. And I could never put it that articulately back then, but that's exactly how I felt. I didn't like touching the tape. It was like, this is ugh.
There's just that not voyeuristic, just something that just made you feel like, wow, this is a forbidden object. I can't.
Yeah, that and the whole disease theme of the fly, it makes you feel like you're going to catch something through it, and then you're going to mutate into a big brundle fly and puke on people.
Oh yeah, and Jeff Goldblum started doing conventions more recently, but it is always listed on there along with all his other beloved
he's great
blockbusters.
He's great in that.
But yeah, I don't think that would have given him as many options. I don't think if he had done that, I don't think he would have been as... I mean, he was always doing kind of off-canny, wacky comedies, but I don't think he would have even done something even as goofy as Earth Girls. He just had kind of that... He kind of just... I think he makes all his actors feel comfortable with just, screw what anyone else thinks. Just do something that defies explanation. And if people want to... obviously your grandparents aren't going to watch these movies, and obviously anyone who's got sensitive... they'll probably acknowledge you, but say, yeah, sorry, I can't finish this. It's too graphic. And it's like, well, yeah. And
Cronenberg isn't afraid of pushing the envelope, and he has no real, I don't know how he would feel about this now. And I would love to ask him this question, but I read an interview with him from the 90s, I believe, where he a quote I will never forget is that he said that an artist has no social responsibility. And that's probably a very un-PC thing to say right now, because everyone is held accountable for things they say, and they should be. But when you're talking about, creating as an artist, it's like you really shouldn't hold yourself back. If there's something you feel compelled to create, you should do it.
Oh, totally.
And then I guess let the public be the judge,
1,000%. You do need to be held accountable, but it's not the same as say, Jason and I are in no way implying that we are congressmen who just, want to blindly, list everything as taboo and ban it.
Absolutely not.
The guy who watched Taxi Driver 50 times and shot Ronald Reagan, that was not on Scorsese. That was
right
on that dude. And maybe even the theater owners for saying, hey, dude, are you okay? I got to deny you entry.
Well, violence existed way before movies were made. So,
I mean, there's I just have pals who do the video nasty challenge. They will go for a movie and see if it was worth being on that list, and half the time,
most of them weren't.
No, it's like it's just they're kind of like we're like the banned Twilight Zone episodes, where it's like they made enough of an impression, or it's like, just play that at 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's insane. You mentioned his newest film. What did you think about it? Not a history of violence, but Crimes of the Future.
It might. Everyone's going to vary on this. I had some who complained that they didn't feel like it was horror enough. For me, the only concern was seeing Kristen Stewart, and I was like, screw it. It's Cronenberg. Seeing it doesn't matter.
I thought she was pretty good in it, actually. I thought she did a good job.
She didn't leave an impression on me either way, but I didn't have any issue with it. It's just kind of, you know how when people kind of just get to that point where they're kind of doing movies that are similar to their earlier works, but it's kind of more like what's it like called in a book where it's like the afterthought.
Oh, like a coda or something, or
something
epilogue.
Like that, or almost like a prologue. Even it's like, in many ways, I feel like this is kind of just his counterpart to all the other stuff he's done before, like Videodrome and Existence. And
Videodrome and Existence go hand in hand. They're like, you're right. They're like two books that are connected.
Yeah, if anything, this is his list of an anthology book, and it is like, he's kind of, it might be well-worn territory, but he makes it new again. He's going through that threshold that he has navigated before, and showing again mad scientists, and much like The Fly, just who get caught up in their own experiment to where they are the experiment.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good return to form. I mean, at least return to his old body horror stomping grounds. I actually, the movie I thought would have worked better maybe as a series, because when it ended, I was like, what? It's over already? It's already over? I was wanting more.
It went by so fast, and he is really good with just, how do you think he handles static shots? Because there's other people who can get a little self-indulgent and makes you go, well,
I think he's masterful. I mean, he knows what to do. He always hires the best DPs. Yeah,
that's true. I forgot how many great cinematographers he's worked with and editors, and I mean,
he usually uses like Peter Straczynski, who shot Empire Strikes Back. That was one of his biggest.
Right.
Carol Spears always doing his art direction.
There's movies of his that have dark fantasy and horror elements, like even Spider. He's like, I wouldn't classify that as horror, but it's definitely a dark.
Oh movie. Yeah, absolutely. Every one of his movies has some hint of darkness in it, at least. Going
back to even Existence, I resaw that a few years ago. I kind of didn't like how it almost initially ends, and then it just throws you for full. Is like it's a thought within a thought, basically.
I think that's a great one. I think that's a great movie. And it has one of my favorite scenes too, where Jude Law's eating the meal and like taking it apart and like assembling that flesh gun. Oh, that's such a great scene.
The flesh gun, even, and I think in that same scene, he's even examining like someone who's died, and he's like, but he's not really dead. It's in this virtual,
Right.
It's like, but if anything, that's like the gross out, to come out the same year when everyone was trying to get that Matrix money. It's like, to me, it almost ends in like one of the darker, like Stargate almost kind of episodes. It's like, it's that kind of just what these Toronto filmmakers know how to do, is just kind of just, everyone else experiments, but Cronenberg kind of makes the audience be part of the experiment. And he kind of just, like you say, he interweaves and I forgot about the hamburger scene. That is hysterical. This is like, we are meat. We are
right. Yeah. I think he's also like prescient. I mean, because like look at Videodrome, which is probably my favorite Cronenberg film. But if you substitute the internet for TV, he told the future with that movie. Because I mean, characters saying lines like, in the future we will all have TV names. How many of us go by our real names online and stuff like that? It's just
right.
Yeah.
So we see that now. I mean, people are doing it more lighter with blockbusters like Free Guy, which is, as I call it, is part of Zach Penn's virtual reality trilogy. People finding themselves through fictional realities that they're a part of is like, I mean, he goes for the darkness, which is just like,
and how many people feel like malaise about social media? You know, I mean, we love it, but at the same time, we hate it. You know,
right?
It divides and it obsesses, and it's, you know,
Oh
it can
yeah.
be very ugly.
Oh, totally. And I mean, now it's oversaturated to where, I mean, Wayne Brady was saying recently is like TikTok's here to stay, so you just gotta use it the right way. But you know, that's also easier said than done. You know, there's going to be so many moments where just like, I want to use it, but this is just throwing me just such a wrong way now. So much wrong sauce. But I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled a Soderbergh and started utilizing recent technology.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Now, I did not know this. I did not know that Ivan Reitman was one of his producers on his earlier movies, Shivers. But that makes sense. Two Canadian, two Canucks.
Yep. What do you think? What do you think of his early films?
I say check them out. That some of them don't hit me like they do with Dead Ringers or Scanners. But
a little rough around the edges, but there's so many great ideas in them. And
well, that's just it. You know, if anything, I think, you know. So George Romero was kind of all about one location, just hitting home on that, and use your blue collar friends who are just as good an actor as someone you see on TV at 7. You know, and Reitman kind of just experimented with a lot of comedy, and I can't believe I'm bringing this up, but Ghostbusters horror cred. Yeah, and then I mean, with Raimi, it was all kind of just have a sense of humor about everything and just let it take its course. You know, people are gonna view Evil Dead just as a legit horror as much as they do a wacky fantasy comedy, you know, and or a violent action movie that with gross out gags, you know. Is so Cronenberg is kind of more just let the idea speak bigger than the words. So there are plenty of moments. One of the guys later on, I think in Scanners, kind of gives a performance that leaves a lot to be desired, but it doesn't matter. You want to know about why are people's heads exploding. But
yeah, so I do think that's probably one of his weakest films, actually, is Scanners. And maybe part of it is that exploding head, because that's kind of near the beginning that sets up this expectation that it's going to be like a gore fest or something.
Yeah, we got.
It's really not. It's more of a political thriller than anything.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy. All these newscasters are questioning each other. What's going on here? But I think the sequels didn't help. But there's another one, Puri David. You know, he made his career off of that was one of his first big productions. He went on to produce other gross out franchises like Wishmaster and The Dentist. And so, if anything, yes, with all these people Cronenberg has worked with, he's kind of the head collaborator. But I mean, I know people who are even divided on his movies, but they will still check it out because they know he's not a dumb person. He's not too campy. He's not, I wouldn't even call him campy. He's just
not at all.
This cult filmmaker. All movie dares to compare him to Romero as well as Tobe Hooper.
Do you have is there a favorite of yours of Cronenberg?
You know, this might be a hot take. I kind of like Naked Lunch.
Dude, I was going to say Naked Lunch is my second favorite.
Okay, even better. And
I love that movie. Peter Weller is perfect,
right?
As Bros.
It's just I don't think anyone else could have translated that. I could see maybe someone like maybe the Coens or someone might have tried it, but
well, I mean, yeah, you cannot film that book as written. That's impossible.
No,
but he really he took the spirit and really William translated it. Yeah. Translate it into something you can actually kind of ingest.
Ingest? Careful. Don't say that in a Cronenberg movie. So dare I say, what is his best acting cameo, do you think?
Oh, I think his best acting job would be in Nightbreed, which is really more of a cameo because I think he's one of the stars, you know.
But I can't see anyone else doing that. I mean, Sam Raimi was making cameos like in William Lustig and a bunch of the other guys' movies as like a reporter or a guy who gets killed at the beginning, but I can't see anyone else doing that. I think anyone
probably my favorite cameo of his is in his own movie, in The Fly, when he's delivering.
Oh, that's right.
In the dream sequence.
Yes,
because I didn't know who he was. This was back in the day. This was the late 80s. You didn't really have all access to what directors looked like and all that. I
will admit, I think I'm glad they took the cat death out. I think that just would have been too much.
That would have been a bit much. Yeah, but I remember hearing the doctor's voice who I didn't know was David Cronenberg, and I found his voice oddly soothing. You know,
and it's so ironic in a movie that has you on the edge of your seat, and you're just like, whoa.
And then later I found out that was him, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad they took out the cat thing too. That would have been a little bit too much. You don't want to show too much, you know?
Oh, and that's just it. And I mean, like, even the rape sequence, you know, I don't, while it's too much for me in the dead zone, I don't feel like it's gratuitous, if that makes sense.
No,
I tread lightly because this is not a easy to watch, you know,
it's not
in a movie.
It's not for exploitation. It's not for titillation.
Thank you.
It's pure horror. Yeah.
So that's one of the things. Because he understands humanity and explores his dark side, I think that's what keeps him from being dubbed an exploitation guy or having even kind of the backlash that, I don't know if he's had backlash, but just hard. I mean, I look at some of the other guys and I don't think they've fallen necessarily. It's just they've kind of gone the independent route. Like Joe Dante's kind of done that. He had a falling out with Warner Brothers and he said, okay, fuck Hollywood. I'll make what I want to make that I would have made.
It's so sad when directors like him can't get money to make movies. You know, it's insane. It's just,
and I'm tired of when my sister sends me clickbait. You know, it's like, oh, Jane Campion, Martin Scorsese hates superhero movies. It's like, it's more than that. They just hate how it's.
All they're saying is it's not art, and that could be, that's debatable. What is art? You know,
I think they're fun, but I don't love every single superhero movie, and I think, if anything, the fandom's to blame, because like you'll see people who are like, you must love every single Marvel or DC. I'm like, well, that's just not going to happen.
That's ridiculous. That's stupid. I love Star Wars, but I don't love every Star Wars film. You know,
how can you? I mean, there's Star Wars movies that have great moments, and then you're like, yeah, but take that battle away. That was a boring slog. And it's just like, I mean, there's Star Trek movies the cast wish they didn't have to relive Ranch. So I mean, yeah, and I'm sure there's an episode of The Twilight Zone that Aaron Spelling secretly disowns. I mean, but not Aaron Spelling, but did I dare say out Rod Sterling? Oh, wow. That's a face palm.
It's a good thing you're the editor and cut that out.
Oh, no, that's funny. I'm keeping that. But no, thank you. That's a good way of putting it. He's not exploitive. Right. He has elements that would otherwise, in an exploitation filmmaker's.
He doesn't shy away from showing nudity and gore and stuff like that, but it's always for a purpose.
We'll return after these messages.
Hello and welcome to Culture Shocked, the pop culture podcast brought to you by four aging millennials and our outdated opinions. Join us every Tuesday as we discuss movies, TV, games, and even music, new and old.
Dude, what do you think you're doing?
Are you seriously trying to record a promo without us right now?
Well, yeah.
Dude, you can't just do the promo by yourself. Who's gonna listen to that?
Yeah, and you probably haven't even told them that we're a pop culture podcast where we always agree on everything. For instance, the Sam Raimi trilogy, easily being the best of the Spider-Man movies.
No. But I think we can all agree that Jaws is a classical masterpiece.
Nope, don't like that. But we do all agree that the sequel trilogy of Star Wars is the best in the Skywalker saga, right, guys?
That comment is so ridiculous. I don't even know where to
Anyways, that'll do it from all of us here at Culture Shock. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast wrecks and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR.
We add them to our queues. We wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US. We are in the UK. We are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Yeah, it supports his thesis when he does this. You know, it's not just, hey, here's some TNA for you to keep you awake. No, it's not about that.
Yeah, he's going into the psych of it all, and I'm even surprised that New World Pictures or one of those Roger Corman, knockoff artists didn't try to get him. He was probably too expensive for what they were asking, so they just didn't.
He was offered Return of the Jedi. Wait, that's David Lynch. Cronenberg was involved. I'm thinking of Total Recall. That's the one. That's the sci-fi film.
I do remember that.
That Cronenberg was supposed to make. And I think his take would have been amazing. I mean, I'm pretty happy with what we got.
Sense,
it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole questioning of reality and everything. It's right up Cronenberg's alley.
I mean, and that's just it. He's collaborated with so many of these cult filmmakers, and Recall would have been interesting. I think he would have had more gross out gags. I mean, I'm even surprised he didn't do End of Days. Arnold, why didn't you get his number? But that is awesome. But no, Lynch is a good counterpart. It seems like they're part of the same coin. Lynch,
yeah, that's true.
Lynch does just. I mean, he kind of was doing the mindfuckery before Christopher Nolan was trying to steal that thunder, steal that money. But Cronenberg, I mean, kind of just.
Both Lynch and Cronenberg, they're definitely slaves to their.
They're the art house kind of.
Yeah. Capital A artists.
I will admit, I did have to rewatch Eastern Promises again. I loved the first half, and then I didn't care for like the second half. It lost me. And then I resaw it again. It's like I love it even more, especially now that I love the twist. And I saw others they love. I have pals who would love bank robbery and gangster movies, and they hated that. I'm like, well, see, that puts a different spin on it. It's an identity movie. It's a bigger identity movie than The Departed. It's like it's all about a man who's got to accept, that he is who he is because all these eyes are watching him.
Yeah, I don't blame Cronenberg for using Viggo Mortensen so much. He's such a brave actor. He's so good. Like he's fearless. The man, he goes for it.
And he's still making big blockbuster movies and showing how it is possible to, go from being if anything, Viggo and Cronenberg were from a lot of the same cloud. It's just one of them was doing international productions and, then got big from Lord of the Rings and then still showed how he still had a big make audiences come out and see who he was. And I think I don't know if you kept up with Viggo in interviews. I remember seeing a more recent interview and I respected him instantly when we did a special on him, and he was one of those, he hates just people getting privileged. It's like when he was invited to one of the Oscar ceremonies, people were like, oh no, you can't sit there, and he's like, I refuse. I'm not going to sit up in the corner with everybody else. I'm going to sit where all the other guys who aren't going to win anything.
Nice.
I think
he seems like a legitimate, honest artist.
Oh yeah. If anyone claimed he ran over someone, I would not believe it. I just like, no.
Right. Yeah.
And much like, Cronenberg just seems like much like Raimi, and Lynch is kind of more. I don't want to say standoffish, but kind of more just leave me to my own device and I will make a product that I don't care if it takes you 20 decades to figure it out.
Right.
I did my job. And Cronenberg is kind of more just like take an idea that's vapid, that's insane, but I'm insane enough to pull it off. Because
he rides that line between that art house obscurity and mainstream films. He's really good at managing both of it.
He's the real Van Helsing because each movie you watch, he stakes you.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes not in your heart. I saw that he was almost involved with the sequel to Basic Instinct. Well, long story short, let's be glad that didn't happen. But I do feel like he does kind of have some of Paul Verhoeven, although Verhoeven, goes for satire, and it just unfortunately due to, I want to say, his Dutch culture, it kind of just doesn't always land because you watch his overseas movies like Flesh and Blood and
great movie, underrated movie. That one's not talked about enough.
Underrated. That is the anti, all is kind of like Lynch does kind of, I feel like all these guys kind of do anti-movies. It's like Jordan Peele's kind of doing that, especially with Nope recently. And it's like,
I still haven't seen it. I feel bad for it. I haven't seen that movie. I need to.
It's all good. You'll either like it or hate it.
There's so much to watch. There's just, I can't watch everything.
I'm the same way. Funny enough, I've been able to get TV shows off the digital recorder, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, better hurry up. I better get this movie in the can. So to hit on your point, it does seem like is like these guys. I do feel like he and Verhoeven come from a similar nature of go explore dark truths and just use your time wisely.
They have different approaches, like you say. Yeah, Verhoeven goes more for the satire, whereas Cronenberg does it in more of a subversive way, almost.
Very subversive. Subversive is a good way to put it. I mean, there's a reason you guys are genre exposure. Because it does seem like you'll see plenty of other people who, if there's a person, I have on occasion encountered people who love or hate Cronenberg, but you don't know how much of their movies they've actually seen, or if it's just a cool thing to say. Is like, no.
But there's no one in the middle. No one says, he's okay. No one says that about Cronenberg.
He's good.
You're right. It's either they love him or they hate him.
But
now, is there a movie you would recommend for someone who maybe hasn't seen a lot of Cronenberg films? Like a good one to kind of get into?
I mean, I'm with you. I think The Fly is probably his most accessible. Yeah. And then if you, A History of Violence is definitely a must-see.
History of Violence is a very good movie.
I don't understand, though, why he doesn't consider it an action movie. Maybe he just doesn't like the label that it would be comparable to a Harrison Ford or Schwarzenegger movie.
I think when you say, I might agree with that, because I think when you say action, that means the emphasis is on the action and on that sort of
I just go with
spectacle
action in it, because it's still a crime movie.
Oh, there's definitely lots of action, but like most Cronenberg films, I think the action is more horror oriented, really, because like that scene in the diner. Yeah, the scene in the diner when he, he's defending himself and he shoots the guy in the face and his tongue's lolling out and everything.
It's interesting. You should check out the Spike TV edit. They totally actually.
Oh God, it's gotta be incomprehensible.
No, actually, no. But the finale is pretty uncut.
Oh, okay.
Getting shot in the face. They just cut out the very first part where the random victim is.
Oh,
shot.
Right.
And so when I saw that, I was like, "What movie is that from?" Oh, and
yeah.
Obviously, they take out sex scene, but
Yeah, we can't have that. Not in America. No, you can show someone's head.
And I remember seeing someone saying that was gratuitous. I'm like, do you actually understand what it's about? It's just to show his incessant love for this person which is a fun foreshadow, because how that movie ends is like, I loved how other people complained about how it ended. There's always got to be someone who complains about everything, but like
because of the ambiguity. Is that?
I'm like, well, how else would it end? It would just be more messy, more unpleasant. We've encountered
That's a perfect ending. It's a perfect ending because you don't know exactly where it's going to go, but
I thought it
could go either way.
I thought it was cute having it be at dinner time.
Yeah, exactly.
This man's kids who have seen him actually kill in their defense, and their angry mom who never knew he was a former, retired hitman gangster.
Yeah.
Left it all behind. It's like all this explaining.
It's a perfect ending. It's like even the new one, Crimes of the Future. I could see that ending pissing off a lot of people, but it was a perfect ending. I mean, I wanted more. I wanted more because it was so good, and I'm like, I want to see more of this story.
Oh, totally. Like you say, it could totally be an Amazon Prime limited series, 5 episodes. Because they're acing it lately. They have a lot of shows where I have to watch 3 epipisodes in a row.
They do,
or I am going to forget it. It will, mind blown. And I could see him doing just all other kinds of shows, but I think, like Lynch, to your earlier point, I think enough people know about him to where they know that I might have to see it more than once, or I might, but I don't think he's even so much as that. They just know he's not your common cinema, so be prepared.
It's not escapism. You have to.
Yeah,
he's going to challenge you a little bit. You have to, because it's okay. Like the whole Scorsese thing about comic book movies and stuff. It's like those are fine. It's great to have movies that you can just watch and have fun with and forget about. But also, if you're not challenging yourself every now and then, you're missing out. You really are.
I'm so tired of I only want brain dead entertainment.
Yeah, no,
you're not going to get that.
It's like fast food. You don't want it all the time.
No, eventually your body will say cancer, reject. But,
yeah.
My only issue with Scorsese is I do kind of feel him a little hypocritical because he did do Joker, and it's like, well, that's a comic book superhero movie. So
yeah, yeah.
I think he only made it just because it was kind of like his earlier movies styled after that. But Cronenberg, I don't feel like he holds back, and I don't feel like he's too much for his own good. I don't feel like you say like he doesn't not know what he's talking about. I feel so many others can easily fall into that rhythm.
Right.
There's some who I'm actually surprised have gone through hits and misses. I was looking at the resumes of even other people like John Schlesinger and even Stephen Hopkins. It's like they're probably some of the few people who I never see make any worst of list, and they've had so many hits and misses. I don't feel like Cronenberg got too old for his own good with like Brian De Palma, where he just really took the misses so
kind of started phoning it in.
And then you kind of heard rumors of how he was still trying to have long, exhaustive hours, just like in the 70s. It's like, you can't do that. You can't do what Michael Mann was getting in trouble with back in the 90s, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta break, you gotta be ready to wrap, and you gotta let people get 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, or like William Friedkin, people like that from the 70s and 80s.
Oh yeah, Friedkin I do admire, but we did have some
He's a maniac.
He's a maniac. Yeah, we had some great guests on it. And have you seen his documentary where he's like, I actually believe in exorcisms and everything?
I haven't watched it. No, it looks very cheesy.
Caitlin of Scared Sheepless blog had a great take on it. Is like, he absolutely believes in his bullshit, and it's worked well most of the time, but then it's just slowly is like, freaking I do kind of respect a little more than De Palma, because it's like, De Palma, don't get me wrong, when he's good, but
no, he's great.
He's got lots of duds, and he's one of those like, okay, I can get a 10-part, but it's gonna be a lot of navigation. And is like freaking is like, he kind of ate up a lot of his stuff, but I feel like he's kind of like another side of the same coin where it's like, but if imagine like an angry Cronenberg or Lynch, who if people hate it, he's kind of gonna do what Roger Corman was doing when people would show up at his drive-in movies and laugh during the minute. He's gonna throw popcorn at you.
Right. Man, an angry Cronenberg. I wonder if Cronenberg ever gets angry. He doesn't seem like the sort of guy that would get angry.
I think if he does, I see him as more of a David Chase kind, where if he gets a memo that someone was in a car crash or came late to set, he's gonna give him 20 minutes for him to be angry and just throw the trash can across the office and then think to himself alone. I don't see him as a
right. No, I can never see him like losing his cool or anything like that.
Yeah, no, definitely no bitch slap like Friedkin was known for.
No.
Well, and to hit on the superhero point, my sister, I keep bringing her up. I don't mean to downplay her. She's a very awesome film buff. But I remember she sent me an article where Neil Blomkamp of District 9 and Elysium fame and Dennis Vanav got into it on Twitter. Like, Dennis Vanav was like, I fucking hate superhero movies, and Blomkamp was like, fuck you, I love it all, I love superhero movies. and she wanted me to take a side. I'm like, doesn't matter, I love those guys too. I feel like Blomkamp, even though all his movies haven't always hit the right angle, I feel like he's a kind of a experimental sci-fi guy who just channels what he loved from the 80s. And
District 9 is a perfect movie. It's one of those few perfect films. Yeah, me too.
I remember my family and I, we were joking. It was like, that's an R-rated ET.
Yeah.
That's Enemy
I
Mine.
love that movie because I that one was it was like a lot of Cronenberg's work. Honestly, you don't know where it's going, and I really love that. I love that.
I feel like too many people in the healthcare system get angry at Elysium needlessly. I'm like, well, it's showing everything wrong. It's still going to happen in the future.
Right. Yeah.
If I need to be scantily clad, like in Mad Max to make my point, then you're not ready to listen to me anyway. I mean, and the best kind of sci-fi is when you deal with dystopians and other social commentaries.
Yeah,
how
you're just holding a reflection up to us right now.
Totally. It's not going to get any better. You're welcome.
Yeah, right.
And Vanav, kind of like Cronenberg, has kind of been navigating. He is all about get inside the person's mind, but don't rely on just the actor playing to the camera.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, his son Brandon, I'm kind of surprised it's taken him so long to get into the scene, because he had Antiviral, which was kind of a sleeper in 2012, and Possessor, I gotta say though, almost feels like the unofficial sequel to Existence.
Oh really? Yeah, I need to watch that. That's what I haven't seen.
Because I was not prepared for it. I figured, okay, it's kind of like typical, body horror. Is like, no, even more. Like, it's dealing with corporate spies, so it's kind of like Existence, got a cyberpunk kind of feel.
Cool.
And then it kind of goes into a X-rated Body Snatchers. And by X-rated, I mean there's going to be those squeamish moments. Do not watch this, especially Sean Bean lovers. Spoiler.
Nice.
But I was mindfucked by it, and I was left wanting more. So I feel like
that's the way it should be, man.
But so if anything, Brandon is definitely taking his father's footsteps, but he's not. I don't think he's getting too cute for his own good. If anything, he might. I can't believe we're going back to Reitman. I think, like Jason Reitman, he's studied and loves his old man so much, so he's going to do movies much like that, and then he'll surprise you with something that's his own doing. He's like, right? Jason was given the other Jason. Reitman was given the reins of the Ghostbusters franchise, but as cute as Ivan can be with movies like Dave, I don't think he would have done something like Thank You for Smoking like that his son did,
Right.
So it's cool seeing this comparison contrast.
It's not just nepotism. They're talented filmmakers in their own right. Yeah.
You're right. It's the same thing with actors where everyone's got to prove themselves. They need an extra boost. You kind of saw that with all the offsprings of the Eastwoods and Gibsons and other people. It's like they're kind of just part of an ensemble. They're not quite to Emilio Estevez or Kiefer Sutherland level.
I can't fault them for trying, but at the same time, it's like, you got to stand on your own at the end of the day.
1,000%. And so much like David Cronenberg will probably be listed as one of the best filmmakers, I think he'll probably be listed as one of the essential Canadian filmmakers. And
for sure.
Just about every other Canadian filmmaker almost always has like a credit in one of his movies, even if it's like a 5-second role as a medic, or a first person killed,
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, if anything, how would you contrast him with some of the other guys who often are the first ones mentioned especially for the 90s, like Wes Craven?
Oh man. I mean, I love Wes, but
it's fine.
He was probably the spottiest of all of the horror directors.
Yeah, he always had a studio guy. It seemed like he was too nice of a guy. He always got taken advantage of.
Well, for every Elm Street, there's like 3 Deadly Friends,
The Deadly Friends, or My Soul to Take is one of those. I'm like, yeah, that was a Weinstein. Took him away, didn't let him do anything.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, Cronenberg is really in a class of his own. I really think that. I mean,
yeah,
it transcends horror. It transcends any genre.
And you can tell often when you're with the wrong crowd. Like I can often tell, kind of like when I would see George Romero fans, I would always ask them a follow-up question. Have you seen anything? Have you seen Martin? Have you seen any of his non-zombie movies?
Oh, Martin is so good.
Right. My parents absolutely hated Night Riders growing up, and that was the first thing they saw.
Night Riders is so fun. How could you hate Night Riders? Tom Savini riding around on a motorcycle? Please.
Right. I think much like Verhoeven with Starship Troopers, I think a lot of people just see it at face value.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, but yeah, I mean,
it's a silly movie. Why would these guys take this so seriously? Riding around on motorcycles, jousting. But is it any sillier than football? No,
exactly. I mean, if anything, I feel like it's a documentary on, because I go to a lot of those medieval times.
Those written fair things.
Oh, not medieval times. Renaissance fairs.
Yeah.
So I see plenty of people trying to recreate, what might be a middle of the world kind of portal back in the
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
1800s or shall we say 1600s. And but that's a good point. He does seem like he's all about just cautionary tales more so than some of these other guys. And even if his movies are hard to watch, again, you can't say that he didn't flesh, and again, no pun, and a bunch of it out. He's all about is like he wants you to feel kind of in the moment. And I guess you could say other people. I mean, I could look at recent Ridley Scott. They kind of don't know how, they just feel like the audience is an idiot, and yet they'll have characters who are absolute idiots, and they don't reinforce that enough. And Cronenberg,
he knows characters. Like all of his characters' motivations make sense, even if you don't agree with them. It makes sense.
Oh, totally.
But
so I guess if we're gonna say one movie you might skip, what would it be?
Of Cronenberg's films, one movie. Oh God. Probably. I'm not going to include Fast Company because that's right.
Actual.
I'm not. That's an easy one to skip because it's kind of not that interesting.
No, it's fine.
It doesn't really fit in with his oeuvre that much.
No, I'm with you.
But honestly, I would probably say Scanners. It's okay to skip Scanners. Watch the head exploding scene, and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah. I did not care for Maps to the Stars. I liked where it was going, showing the Hollywood underbelly. But I just was very disorganized, and none of the dark comedy landed for me. But Cosmopolis, I'm sorry, I'm just not a Robert Pattinson guy.
He's won me over. I'm convert now. After The Lighthouse, it's just I'm like, okay, yeah, you're a real actor now. Okay, fine.
If anything, there's a lot of people. I have to even explain to people is like when people start out in infamous movies, I'm not judging what you first stared in. It's
sure.
Like
you got to get your break somewhere, right?
I don't give two shits if anyone started off in Twilight, Transformers.
It's like DiCaprio, Titanic. Oh God, I couldn't stand him, but then eventually he became an actual good actor. So
fair enough. I mean, and if you just don't like an actor, then you don't like the actor. I mean, just say that. But there's so many other people, they will try to be a kiss ass. It's like, I will still see any movie that Tom Cruise is in, even though I think he's a terrible person.
Tom Cruise is a good example for me because I can't do him. I can't do his movies. I just can't.
That's all good. When we had you on you guys on the
I was probably bitching about it then. Yeah.
Well, when we had you on the James Bond episode, I loved how we kind of just let loose. It's like, man, these movies drive us crazy. This is the side of Bond I don't want to see. And I saw Top Gun 2, and it was like, so basically everyone blew their load on Marine ad.
Yeah. It's like the first one.
Right, not the first, second time.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to seeing how various formulas can be experimented upon, and I would never claim he's a has-been for this guy. I mean,
oh God, no.
If I'm going to say someone's a has-been, I mean, I don't know, if they better have just like not wanted to do this for quite a while.
Yeah, it has been people who keep making it just to make a living, and they don't care. They have no passion. There's no focus.
They seem like a
that is not Cronenberg. Even the movies that he's made that have kind of deviated, like Cosmopolis or Maps to the Stars or whatever.
He is one of the
he still believes in it. He's making it for a reason. It's not just to cash a check.
I think that's why he had more freedom, and people were, because no one ever knew what to expect in everyone, and he only had like free movies with exploding heads. I think so there's Videodrome, Scanners, there's got to be at least one other one. Anyway, I think I think that's why they were used to his diversity. And if anything, I think because he was part of back when video store shelves were kind of the place to go if you didn't have satellite TV. I feel like he was kind of much like Dario Argento in that
Mm-hmm.
he again, you would go to your Angelica theater or Magnolia theater and witness his movies, and if not, then yeah, you recorded it off of
Yeah, like when I finally realized what directors were, when I was a kid, I went through and like Argento. If there were some directors, I just went by. I'd find other movies and get them, and Cronenberg was definitely one of them.
Right.
Like I have to see all of his films.
Exactly. And he was pretty well hyped up because there was so many other guys who just you never really knew what to expect because they were just commonly referenced. I would always watch a movie or show and like look at a making of like book, and you'd see everything. And that was kind of since I read film history, that was kind of the selling point for me. Oh, this art director was inspired by Forbidden Planet, or this visual effects company worked on Blade Runner. I'm gonna check this out.
Go back and check those out. Yep.
This Robert Kurtzman guy, he's kind of a big deal. He worked on Phantasm 4, he and his company. Okay. And it's like you say, it comes in waves because it's like we didn't have the internet being what it was back then. You would see kind of just a simple ego piece.
You start collecting piles of film books.
Right. The film books actually explored all the unwritten truths, and that was the only solution if you weren't listening to the commentary track on a laser disc or a DVD.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man. And I'm sure if you have you listened to any of his commentary tracks?
I have listened to
never had the opportunity, but I'm sure there's got to be one somewhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking Naked Lunch is one I have listened to. But I'm not even sure how many he's actually done. I'll have to go back and double check that. Because a lot of directors, they don't really like to talk about them,
Right.
They let the movie do the talking.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good point too. He's pretty private, but not in a way like kind of like the Wachowski siblings, where you're just like, I don't know who they even look like.
Right. Yeah.
Joel Silver's doing the talking in every special feature.
Yeah.
It was kind of at that perfect, I don't want to say breaking point, but barrier where you would just start seeing people who is like kind of just they weren't just the anti-filmmaker, they were the anti-promoter.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Oh man. Well, this has been an absolute delight having you on, and
thanks, man. Yeah, it's fun. Good time.
And you guys have been doing some really good stuff in that you're again, you're always picking a theme each month, and Halloween was no exception.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Did our little extreme film block there.
And it's not easy to prep for either. It's like some people want to rewatch these various movies and they're just like, no, it's fresh and new. You know how you feel. You've talked about it 100 times. Let's get on the mic. Let's get it.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other teases you want to throw out there?
Well, right now we've started doing a block on musicals.
There you go.
So yeah, we'll see how that's received. But the first, I think it's dropping this Wednesday, so it will already be out by the time this episode airs, I'm sure. But we did Hedwig and the Angry Inch as Michael's pick.
That's a good one.
I had never seen it before. I had never seen it. It was one that was on my radar. I just never watched it. So you'll have to tune in to see what I thought.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, well, you're keeping busy.
Yeah, trying to. I just love talking about movies, man.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on to talk about Cronenberg, one of my favorites.
And I hope you vent out any frustration. It's like I see so many people who will bitch about prepping for it, or they'll watch a movie or an episode of TV like 5 different times. I'm like, Jesus, come on, dude. Just take your notes while watching and have fun.
Yeah. You can overanalyze things for sure, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget to have fun. In anything, don't forget to have fun.
Yeah, I would see some who said they did it with movies that they couldn't stand. I'm like, oh, don't do that.
No, don't waste time on that. No. Life's too short.
I mean, often if you just think hours later, you pretty much still know what it was. But then there's others, is like they're reading their raw new notes, and it's like, well, you totally thought differently an hour later. So
yeah, right.
I don't know. To me, it's no different than just doing an essay. It's like, it's the 3 basic points. Say what you're going to tell people, tell them, and then tell them what you just told them.
Yeah, tell them again what you've told them. Yeah.
Recap.
Nice.
No, you guys are doing good work.
Thanks, dude.
I have you have even done some cult movies. Is like, wow, I thought I was the only guy who saw that. Or
awesome. That's what I like to hear.
I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this.
Nice. Yeah, because there's so many movies that need more love out there, man. So
yeah, you can't get them unless they might be even a title that even Shout Factory and Criterion only have in DVD form. It's not going to get a remaster.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's some guys who get too snobby. There's like they refuse. They refuse to take it out of the cover and put it in their player.
Screw that. No, it's the same way with toys. Take them out of the box, put them on the shelf, play with them.
Right? Oh man, my dad got mad when I touched one of his action figures. I'm like, "What? You're not using it."
Yeah, it's a toy. Get over it.
Yeah, and get this. He would tease me. Oh, you kids playing with your dolls. I'm like, oh, shut up. I couldn't say that when I was young, but I can now.
Right. Yeah, you can now. That's right.
You know, like. Oh well. Keep busting some moves.
Oh, thanks, man. You too.
Absolutely.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.